The blue-skinned alien named Ark stood before the Galactic Council's viewing screen, his four eyes widening as he studied the small blue planet. It was the first time anyone had paid real attention to this unremarkable star system. The planet's inhabitants still used primitive rocket technology and fought among themselves with basic weapons. Nothing special, or so they thought. Another developing world, Ark said to his assistant, Ray, who floated nearby on anti-gravity pads. Mark it down as Category 3, Pre-Space Civilization. Ray moved his tentacles across the holographic control panel, but something caught his attention. Sir, you might want to look at these readings. Their communication networks are unusually complex. Ark waved his hand dismissively. Many species develop communications before proper space travel. Send in the standard first contact team. Use Protocol 7. That's the one for primitive species, correct? Yes, sir. Though, Ray paused, his skin shifting to a worried purple shade. Their entertainment broadcasts show an unusual fixation with alien invasion scenarios. Paranoid species are often the easiest to handle, Ark replied confidently. They're so relieved when we turn out to be peaceful that they become completely cooperative. The first contact team arrived 3 days later in a ship designed to look non-threatening. The team leader, Ben, had handled 15 first contacts before. This would be simple, land in an open area, show some advanced technology, and let the humans' own leaders keep their people calm. Everything went wrong in the first 10 minutes. The ship landed in a large park in a city the humans called Tokyo. As planned, they waited for the local authorities to arrive and set up a perimeter. But they hadn't expected the crowd's reaction. Instead of running away in fear, hundreds of humans pressed against the police barriers, holding up small devices to record everything. Some were even smiling. Sir, one of Ben's crew members reported, I'm detecting elevated heart rates and adrenaline levels in the crowd, but they're not showing normal fear responses. They seem excited. Before Ben could respond, a small earthquake shook the area. This was unexpected. Their surveys hadn't shown any significant tectonic activity. The humans, though, responded with startling efficiency. Within minutes, emergency teams were moving people to safer areas, setting up emergency stations and establishing clear evacuation routes. The alien team watched in amazement as the humans demonstrated extraordinary coordination without any central command. Small groups organized themselves, helping elderly people and children, sharing information through their communication devices, and adapting to the changing situation. Then things got worse. A nearby building, weakened by the earthquake, began to collapse. The alien safety protocols demanded they stay in their ship, but the humans did something unprecedented. They ran toward the danger. Emergency workers and ordinary citizens worked together, forming human chains, using whatever tools they had to reach people trapped inside. Impossible, Ben whispered as he watched a human lift a piece of concrete that should have been too heavy for their muscle structure. Another human emerged from thick smoke, carrying 2 children, despite having sustained injuries that should have left them unconscious. The aliens' medical scanners revealed that many of the rescue workers had broken bones, burns, and various injuries. Yet they kept working, their bodies flooding with chemicals that allowed them to ignore the pain. Sir, Ray's voice came through the communication channel, sounding worried. You need to see this. The humans are broadcasting this event globally. Millions are watching, and we're detecting similar response patterns worldwide. They're ready to mobilize and help if needed. Ben watched as a human female ran past their ship, carrying medical supplies. She had a severe cut on her arm, but showed no signs of slowing down. Their scanners detected elevated levels of cortisol and adrenaline, yet her focus remained sharp. Update the species classification. Ben transmitted to the Galactic Council. These humans, they're something different. In all my years of first contact, I've never seen a species that runs toward danger instead of away from it. They don't just survive crisis situations, they seem to become stronger during them. As the day ended and the emergency was brought under control, The alien team remained in their ship, revising every assumption they had made about humanity. They had expected to find a primitive species ready to be guided into galactic society. Instead, they found something that made them deeply uncomfortable. A species that thrived on challenges, adapted instantly to crisis, and possessed a form of strength that had nothing to do with technology. The real question wasn't whether humans were ready for the galaxy. The question was the galaxy ready for humans? 2 weeks after the first contact incident in Tokyo, the alien research team gathered in their hidden orbital station above Earth. The walls of their meeting room were covered with images, videos, and data streams about human history. None of them had slept properly since beginning their investigation. Lead researcher Oak stared at a screen showing ancient human cave paintings of hunters chasing large animals. Next to it played videos of modern human marathon runners. His 3 hearts beat faster as he connected the dots. "They never stopped," he said, turning to face his team. "When ancient humans hunted, they didn't use speed or strength. They just followed their prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. They still do this for sport." His assistant Tom pulled up more files on the main screen. "Look at their survival records. Humans have lived through things that should be impossible. There's a case of a human surviving in freezing water for hours. Another walked through a desert for 11 days without water. Their bodies just refused to die." The room fell silent as they watched footage of human extreme sports. Beings jumping from high places for fun, swimming in freezing waters, running across burning deserts, climbing frozen mountains without equipment. "But that's not the scariest part," Oak said, bringing up their psychological analysis. "Humans don't just survive. They get bored with safety. They deliberately seek out danger. They invented something called horror entertainment, where they scare themselves for pleasure." The team's combat specialist, Max, stepped forward. His metallic skin reflected the screen's glow as he played footage from human military training. Their warriors train by making things harder for themselves. They carry extra weight, eat less, sleep less, all to prove they can fight in the worst conditions. And look at this. The screen showed humans practicing fighting styles. They have thousands of different ways to fight. Most species develop 1 or 2 effective combat methods. Humans, they turned fighting into an art form. They practice fighting styles that were outdated thousands of years ago, just because they enjoy it. "There's more," said the team's cultural expert, Lynn, her feathers ruffling with concern. "When humans face something stronger than themselves, they don't submit like most species. They get angry. They have this concept called spite, doing something not for gain, but just to prove they can't be stopped." Oak pulled up images of human cities rebuilt after disasters. "See these places? Humans rebuilt them in exactly the same spots where they were destroyed by earthquakes, floods, and volcanoes, not because it was logical, but to prove that nature couldn't beat them." Tom added more data to the display. "Their fiction is filled with stories of humans fighting impossible odds. They imagine scenarios where they fight monsters, robots, aliens, even their own extinction. And they always win. It's like they've been mentally preparing to fight the entire galaxy." The team watched as their AI compiled statistics about human response to threats. The numbers made no sense. Humans became more effective when things got worse. Their problem-solving abilities actually increased under pressure. "Here's what really worries me," Oak said, showing brain scans. "Humans can form deep emotional bonds with anything. They take care of injured animals, give names to their machines, and treat artificial intelligences like people. This means they can work with any species, adapt to any technology. There's no way to isolate them." Max brought up one final image: a human child sharing food with a stray animal. "This is what makes them truly dangerous. They combine the most aggressive survival instincts we've ever seen with high intelligence and deep emotional bonds. They'll fight to protect not just themselves, but anything they care about." Oak looked out the station's window at the blue planet below. "The Council needs to understand. We're not just dealing with another warrior species. We're dealing with beings who turn survival into an art form, who treat the impossible as a challenge, and who can unite with any ally, if they ever decide to expand into the galaxy. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Every being in that room had reached the same conclusion. Humans weren't just another species to be studied. They were a force of nature waiting to be unleashed on an unsuspecting galaxy. The attack came without warning. The rebel alien faction, known as the Hunters, struck the human mining colony on Mars, believing it would be an easy target. They couldn't have been more wrong. The Hunters' commander, Vex, watched through his ship's view screen as his forces landed near the main dome of the colony. His species had evolved from pack hunters, and they prided themselves on their military might. These humans, with their primitive spacesuits and basic weapons, wouldn't stand a chance. "Sir," his second-in-command reported, "the humans are not evacuating. They're moving deeper into the colony." Vex clicked his jaw in annoyance. "They're hiding. Break open the domes. Let's see how long they last without air." But as the Hunters' plasma cutters began slicing through the outer dome walls, something unexpected happened. Instead of panic, they heard human laughter over the communication channels. The colony's lights went dark, and warning signals blared from the scanning equipment. "Sir, we're losing contact with our forward teams," the second-in-command said, his voice shaking. "The humans, they're hunting us." In the darkness of the colony's maintenance tunnels, the Hunters learned why humans were called pursuit predators. The colonists, mostly miners and engineers, had turned their industrial equipment into weapons. Plasma cutters meant for rock became deadly tools. Mining explosives were rigged into traps. A human voice crackled over all channels. "Welcome to Mars, you ugly bastards. Let's see how you like low-gravity combat." The Hunters' natural armor, evolved for high-gravity worlds, made them slow in Mars' weak gravity. The humans, however, had trained for this environment. They bounced off walls, used their tools as anchors, and turned the low gravity into a weapon. Vex watched in horror as his elite soldiers were picked off one by one. The humans didn't fight like a military force. They fought like something from ancient nightmares. They appeared from ventilation shafts, struck, and vanished. They used their knowledge of the colony's systems to cut off sections, trap hunter teams, and eliminate them with brutal efficiency. "Sir," his tactical officer called out, "the humans are using our own soldiers' armor against us. They're tracking our heat signatures through the walls." A group of human miners had discovered that their deep-core scanning equipment, designed to find mineral deposits, could detect the Hunters' body heat through walls. Within hours, they had modified their tools and were hunting their hunters. The humans' tactical communications were unlike anything Vex had heard before. They didn't show fear. They made jokes, they laughed. They even played what they called music during combat. The more desperate the situation became, the more their spirits seemed to rise. Then came the real shock. As Vex prepared to order a full retreat, his ship detected incoming vessels. The Earth Defense Fleet had arrived, but instead of standard military ships, they were led by converted cargo vessels and mining ships. The humans had turned their civilian fleet into a weapon. "You think we spent all these years in space and didn't prepare for a fight?" The human admiral's voice boomed over all channels. "Those are our people down there, our home. You just made the biggest mistake of your lives." The civilian ships, their holds filled with makeshift weapons and determined crews, swarmed the hunter vessels. They fought without fear of death, ramming into the larger ships, using mining lasers to cut through hulls, and deploying modified drilling equipment as boarding weapons. Vex watched as his mighty fleet was torn apart by ships that weren't even meant for combat. His species had evolved as hunters, but these humans, they had evolved as survivors. They turned everything into a weapon, every disadvantage into an advantage. And they never, ever gave up. As his ship prepared for emergency jump away from Mars, Vex sent one final message to his homeworld. Do not underestimate the humans. They don't just fight. They adapt, improvise, and they get stronger from every defeat. The galaxy has never seen anything like them. The Battle of Mars Colony became legendary, not for its size, but for what it revealed. Humans weren't just capable of fighting. They seemed to come alive during combat, as if conflict awakened something primal and unstoppable within them. The galaxy had just witnessed why you should never corner a species that turned survival into an art form. Word spread quickly through the galaxy after the Mars Colony incident. Trade ships changed their routes to avoid human space. Military vessels maintained safe distances. The stories about humans grew with each retelling, turning into something close to ghost stories among the stars. In a busy space station at the edge of known space, a group of alien merchants huddled around a table, sharing drinks and stories. Their conversation always came back to the same topic: humans. "I heard they eat poison for pleasure," said a tall, thin alien named Pole, his eye stalks wobbling. "They drink something called coffee that would kill most species. They put burning chemicals called spices on their food, and they enjoy it." His friend Mick, a furry creature with 6 arms, leaned forward. "That's nothing. My cousin transported some human settlers last month. They found out his life support was failing, and you know what they did. They helped him fix it while it was broken. They worked in sections with no gravity and low oxygen, making repairs that should have been impossible." The bar fell silent as an old cargo pilot named Dax joined their table. Everyone knew he'd had direct contact with humans. His scales were faded with age, but his eyes still sharp. "You want to know what makes humans truly terrifying?" Dax asked, his voice low. "It's not their strength or their endurance. It's their imagination. Show me any human child, and I'll show you someone who has already imagined 1,000 different ways their world could end, and how they would survive it." He pulled out a data pad and showed them human entertainment videos, scenes of humans fighting robots, aliens, monsters, and even their own evolved selves played across the screen. "Look at this," Dax continued. "They'd been preparing for every possible disaster for generations. Through their stories, their games, their training. Every human grows up learning about survival against impossible odds. They don't just accept defeat, they don't even believe in it." A merchant from the outer rings spoke up. "I once saw a human ship's engine explode. Instead of evacuating, they went into the engine room and rebuilt it, while it was still running. They used parts from their food processors and air filters. They even wrote a manual afterward about how to do it better next time." The stories continued as more aliens joined the conversation. Tales of humans surviving in space with broken equipment, turning mining tools into weapons, and treating deadly situations like puzzles to be solved. Each story made the gathered aliens more nervous. A young pilot mentioned how humans had started offering their services as security consultants and emergency responders. Many ships now carried at least one human crew member, just in case something went wrong. They called it disaster insurance. "But here's the real problem," Dax said, lowering his voice further. "Humans don't just fight well. They teach others to fight. Several species have already started training with them. They're spreading their ideas, their tactics, their never-give-up attitude across the galaxy." The gathered aliens watched a recording of a human teaching a group of different species how to repurpose everyday tools for survival situations. The humans' excitement was obvious, their joy in sharing knowledge clear and somehow unsettling. "They're changing the galaxy," Mick said quietly. "Not through war or technology, but by teaching others to be more like them, to be more adaptable." Dax nodded slowly. "And that's why the Council fears them. Humans don't need to conquer the galaxy. They're transforming it just by being themselves. Every species they meet either fears them or tries to learn from them. Sometimes both." As if to prove his point, the station's warning sirens began blaring. A ship had arrived with critical system failures, requesting emergency assistance. Without hesitation, every alien in the bar turned to look at the single human engineer drinking quietly in the corner. The human grinned, already standing up, tool belt in hand. "Don't worry, folks. This is the kind of problem we live for." And that, everyone realized, was exactly what made humans different. Where others saw crisis, humans saw challenge. Where others felt fear, humans felt excitement. They weren't just surviving in the galaxy. They were teaching it how to thrive on chaos. The Galactic Council's top-secret research facility floated in deep space, far from any traveled routes. Inside, the most brilliant alien scientists gathered around a hologram showing human medical data. Their latest findings had left them speechless. Lead researcher Rix pointed at the human skeletal structure displayed in the center of the room. "Look at this. Their bones don't just break. They grow back stronger at the breaking point. They'd literally become stronger from injuries that should cripple them." His colleague Val, a specialist in alien biology, brought up more data. "Their muscle structure is even more fascinating. Most species build muscle to their genetic limit and stop. Humans, they can keep getting stronger as long as they keep pushing themselves. There's almost no upper limit to their potential strength." The room's screens filled with videos of human athletic events. Marathon runners pushing through exhaustion, swimmers crossing freezing oceans, climbers scaling impossible heights with bleeding hands. "Their pain response is completely backward," Val continued. "In most species, pain makes them stop. In humans, pain tells them they're getting stronger. They have this saying, 'No pain, no gain.' They deliberately hurt themselves to improve." Rix moved the display to show human brain scans. "Their mental adaptability is even more remarkable. Look at their response to isolation. Most social species go insane when alone. Humans, they create imaginary companions. They talk to themselves. They make up stories. Their minds adapt to keep them sane." A younger scientist named Jor stepped forward, his tentacles waving excitedly. "But that's not even the strangest part. Show them the pack bonding data." The display changed to show various human interactions, with other humans, with Earth animals, with aliens, and even with machines. "Humans can form emotional bonds with anything," Jor explained. "Most species only bond with their own kind. Humans bond with other species, with artificial intelligences, even with inanimate objects. They give names to their vehicles. They treat their computers like pets. They adopt animals that should be their natural predators." The scientists watched footage of a human caring for an injured alien child from a species known for its hostility toward others. The human showed no fear, only concern. "This makes them incredibly dangerous," Rick said. "Not because they're hostile, but because they're the opposite. Once a human decides to protect something, they will fight to the death for it, even if that something isn't human. They've turned empathy into a weapon." Val pulled up more medical data. "Their healing abilities are extraordinary too. They recover from injuries that would kill most species. Their bodies are constantly at war with itself, producing new cells, fighting off invasions. They're built for constant conflict and adaptation." The screens showed human emergency workers running into burning buildings, doctors working until they collapsed, soldiers carrying wounded comrades through gunfire. "And look at this," Jor added, showing brain chemistry data. "When facing a crisis, their bodies release chemicals that make them stronger, faster, and nearly immune to pain. They enter what they call a flow state, where the impossible becomes possible." An older scientist who had been quiet until now spoke up. "You're all missing the most terrifying part. Show them the reproduction data." The display changed to show human population graphs. Most species need ideal conditions to reproduce. Humans, they reproduce faster during hardship, war, famine, disaster. Their population grows despite everything that should stop it. It's like the entire species evolved to thrive on adversity. Rix looked at the assembled data with a mixture of awe and fear. "So what we have is a species that grows stronger from injury, adapts to any situation, bonds with any form of life, fights harder when protecting others, and reproduces faster when threatened. No wonder the Council is worried." Val nodded slowly. They're not just another species. They're every survival trait we've ever seen, combined into one package. And the worst part? They're still evolving, still adapting, still getting stronger. The scientists stood in silence, watching videos of humans teaching alien children how to play, helping other species adapt to new environments, sharing their knowledge freely with anyone who asked. Perhaps, Jor said quietly, what we should really fear isn't their capacity for violence, but their capacity for changing the galaxy by simply being themselves. The swarm attacked without mercy. Their black ships darkened the skies above 3 peaceful worlds, including a small colony of arthropod aliens who had just achieved spaceflight. The swarm expected an easy victory. They had done this hundreds of times before. Sweep in, eliminate resistance, take resources. But they hadn't counted on one thing. These worlds were under human protection. The human response came not in mighty warships, but in thousands of smaller vessels. Converted mining ships, research vessels, cargo haulers. Each one modified with makeshift weapons and crewed by volunteers. The swarm's leader watched in confusion as these irregular ships moved to protect not their own worlds, but the youngest and weakest civilization first. These humans make no sense, the swarm commander hissed to his advisors. They risk everything to protect aliens who can't even help them fight. Why? His question was answered by a transmission from the human fleet. A gray-haired captain appeared on screen, her eyes hard as steel. Because that's what you do for family. And anyone under our protection is family. The battle that followed would be remembered for generations. The swarm's superior weapons met human ingenuity and desperate creativity. Cargo ships used their magnetic loading beams as weapons. Research vessels turned their sensors into targeting systems. Mining lasers, designed to cut rock, sliced through swarm armor. But it wasn't just the improvised weapons that shocked the swarm. It was how the humans fought. They coordinated with every species, using each one's strengths. The arthropods, though new to space, knew their star system's asteroid fields perfectly. The humans turned this knowledge into devastating guerrilla tactics. They're using the asteroids as cover, a swarm tactical officer reported. And they're teaching the arthropods how to fight as they go. They're turning this battle into a training exercise. The humans had learned from every previous encounter, every battle, every near defeat. They had studied the swarm's tactics and found ways to counter them. Where the swarm expected fear, they found determination. Where they expected retreat, they found advances. A human ship, badly damaged and leaking atmosphere, rammed into a swarm carrier instead of retreating. Its crew, exposed to vacuum, but still conscious thanks to emergency suits, managed to hack the carrier's systems before being rescued. They laughed as they were pulled to safety, already planning their next attack. The swarm commander watched in growing horror as his fleet's advantages melted away. The humans weren't fighting like a military force. They were fighting like a species that had spent its entire history preparing for this moment. Every human seemed to know exactly what to do, as if they had rehearsed this scenario countless times in their minds. "Sir," his second-in-command reported, "the humans are broadcasting their battle tactics to everyone. They're showing other species how to fight us. They're turning this into an uprising." The human transmissions remained open, filled with battle coordinates, tactical advice, and strangely, jokes and entertainment music. They fought better while laughing, while sharing stories, while teaching others to resist. As the battle turned against the swarm, they discovered another human trait: mercy. The same humans who fought with such ferocity offered medical aid to captured swarm crews. They treated prisoners with respect, even while their own wounded still filled medical bays. The final blow came when the arthropods, using tactics learned from humans over the course of a single battle, led a successful attack on a swarm command ship. The youngest species in the sector, previously dismissed as helpless, had become warriors in a matter of hours. The swarm commander sent his final report before ordering a retreat. "Do not engage humans unless absolutely necessary. They are not just warriors. They are teachers of war, spreaders of resistance. They do not seek to defeat you. They seek to inspire others to defeat you. Most dangerous of all, they show mercy even in victory, making it impossible to hate them. They are not the galaxy's most dangerous warriors. They are something far worse. They are its most dangerous allies. The battle ended, but its impact echoed across the galaxy. The humans had not just won a fight. They had shown every species that resistance was possible, that the weak could become strong, that the hunted could become hunters. And they had done it all while protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. 10 years after the swarm's defeat, the Galactic Council chamber looked very different. For the first time in its history, representatives from every known species sat together, including the arthropoids who had grown remarkably under human guidance. But most striking was the human representative, standing calmly at the center of the grand chamber. The council leader, an ancient being named Ren, studied the changes humans had brought to the galaxy. On every screen, reports showed human influence spreading, mixed species crews becoming common, trading posts turning into cultural centers, formerly hostile species learning to cooperate. We feared humans would conquer the galaxy, Ren said to the assembled council. Instead, they have transformed it. Not through force, but through something far more powerful, inspiration. The screen showed scenes from across space, humans teaching their survival techniques to other species, sharing their technology freely, protecting weaker civilizations until they could protect themselves. Their strange habit of treating everyone as potential family had spread like a positive virus through the galaxy. When we first discovered humans, Ren continued, we thought their greatest power was their ability to fight. We were wrong. Their greatest power is their ability to change others just by being themselves. A young alien scientist presented new data. Trade between species had increased by 300%. Scientific breakthroughs had doubled as different species learned to work together. Even the most isolated civilizations were now reaching out, inspired by human examples of cooperation. The human representative, an older woman with gray hair and laugh lines around her eyes, smiled as she watched the presentations. She had fought in the battle against the swarm, but now she wore the simple clothes of a diplomat. Humans taught us something we had forgotten, said a representative from a warrior species. Strength isn't just about fighting. It's about protecting others. It's about making everyone around you stronger. The arthropoid representative, whose species had grown from a pre-space civilization to a respected council member, spoke next. They showed us that the galaxy isn't a place of limited resources where we must fight to survive. It's a place of endless possibilities if we work together. The screens showed new innovations spreading through the galaxy. Ships designed by multiple species working together. Colonies where different species lived in harmony. Medical techniques that combine knowledge from a dozen worlds. All of it traced back to human influence. But perhaps most importantly, Ren said, humans showed us that fear itself was our greatest enemy. We feared them because they were different. Now we understand that being different is what makes us stronger together. The human representative finally spoke, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. We never wanted to rule the galaxy. We just wanted to explore it, to learn from it, to make friends along the way. Everything else happened naturally. The council watched as more data streamed in. The swarm, once feared throughout the galaxy, had requested peace talks. Other aggressive species were following suit, seeing the advantages of cooperation over conflict. The galaxy was changing, becoming something new. And so, Ren announced, we propose a new organization, the Galactic Protection Force, led by humans, but made up of all species, dedicated to protecting and nurturing developing civilizations, not through force, but through guidance and protection. The chamber erupted in agreement. Species that once would have never spoken to each other now worked together, planned together, learned from each other. The humans had shown them a better way. As the session ended, the human representative looked out at the stars through the chamber's giant window. Another ship was launching, carrying a mixed crew of dozens of species, ready to explore and protect. They called these ships nursery ships now, protecting young civilizations until they could join the galactic community. "Do you still fear humans?" a young alien asked Ren after the session. The ancient council leader watched as humans and aliens mingled freely in the chamber, sharing stories and laughter. "Yes," Ren replied, "but not for the reasons we once did. We fear them because they show us what we could become if we were only brave enough to try. They make us want to be better than we are." And that perhaps was humanity's greatest achievement. They hadn't conquered the galaxy with weapons or technology. They had transformed it with hope, courage, and the simple belief that everyone deserved a chance to reach their full potential.